Hi, I'm Sandy from Lightning Tools, and I'm here again with Brett. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, not too bad. So you're this side of the pond.
I am, yes.
Not
Yeah,
quite in the same country, but
right. Yep. And I'm even further north than you in a time zone east. Yeah, I'm in northern Germany for a couple weeks, 3 weeks actually.
yeah, it's strange. You never really think of part of Germany being more north than England because we kind of go south to get to Germany. So it's
Right.
just
Oh, true.
yeah, yeah. Still always think of it as being south of us, but yeah,
Hmm.
you're absolutely right. Cool.
Yeah. Yep. So very dark this time of year and kind of dismal, but still, that
Yeah,
doesn't matter when you're visiting family.
exactly. I guess compared to Florida, it's definitely a little bit different. No, you're not
Yes,
up in
although,
something.
yeah, we were just saying, I think it's been probably literally 3 years since we've been in temperatures this cold, but it's bracing. It
Good.
feels good now and then. I had to borrow a
Exactly.
coat, but
Wonderful. Well, I'll experience it myself in a couple of weeks for the European
yep,
Collaboration Summit. So
can't
yeah,
wait.
looking forward to that.
All
So
right.
we thought we'd talk about the data viewer
Hmm.
this week.
Yeah,
So
because we don't very much.
yeah,
Poor little data viewer, and it really is a very cool web part.
it's actually an amazing web part. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a really cool little product. It doesn't get a great deal of demand. It's fairly niche. And there's some history about the data viewer as to why it exists. Um, And yeah, I mean, let's talk about that and how we evolved to have this product. I
Sure.
think first of all, and then we can go in and show what the data viewer is all about. And I know you also want to see how we can connect the data viewer to the
Hmm.
Lightning Conductor, so you
Hmm.
can build charts and so on
Yep.
aggregated content. And we've also got another web part as well, which I don't talk about too much, and that's free as well. It's called the Lightning Filters, so we can
Mm-hmm.
certainly jump in and have a look at those.
Yeah.
Um, so Data Viewer as a product was actually one of our very first products that we created. This is back in the days, for anybody that remembers it, back in the BDC days when you had the thing called the Business Data Catalog. And yeah, we were talking about SharePoint 2007 at the
Mm.
time. And
I was just talking to somebody today who had used BDC MetaMan.
oh
That's
wow,
how.
yeah, BDC Metaman was awesome. It's a great little product. But yeah, back then, there was actually something inside of what was originally Front Page and then SharePoint Designer was the Data
Mm,
View
mm,
web part. And the Data View web part was a cool little product. You could yeah add it through SharePoint Designer or Front Page
mm,
prior to that, and you could configure it to style different lists. Which if you think about how complex that is now, if
mhm,
you have to get into JSON and things like that,
mhm,
well, back then you had a way of doing that visually. You could point and click and
mhm,
apply conditional formatting and all
mhm,
that sort of thing.
mhm.
And then you'd publish that. But of course, yeah, that would do this thing called unghosting,
Oh,
which
right. I remember that.
yeah, so all these things that were the issue, and that was frowned upon. So we kind of came up with, let's do something where it means you don't have to do it inside of SharePoint Designer,
Mm,
and we built this thing for yeah, just a web part that you could configure in the browser, and we timed it really well because also at the same time, Microsoft decided in SharePoint 2010 to drop the design tab
mm,
inside of SharePoint Designer, which meant
mm,
that you were back to not being able to do it visually. You had to do everything in code if you wanted to style the data viewer,
mhm.
and nobody did. So
And that was XSL, right? At that.
it was, yeah, you had to do it all in XSL, which is a bit of a pain.
Mm,
So yeah, the data viewer was actually a really good selling tool. It worked well with the business data catalog as well because you could go through and do styling on your data that's coming in from business or the business data catalog, which
mhm,
back then the styling of the BDC web parts was also done in SharePoint Designer,
mhm,
and that was effectively a data viewer or data view web part. So that was the reason why this product existed.
mhm,
So back in SharePoint Online, the by the time we got to SharePoint Online, BDC or BCS was less of a thing. People were using Power Apps and things like that to
mhm,
connect to external data and write back to that external data as well with external connectors. And you've also got Power BI,
mhm,
as far as charting and things like
Right.
that. So that's why, the product doesn't really come up in conversation all that much, because a lot of people are not going down the BCS route or the BDC route. They're either looking at Power Apps or looking at Power BI. But there is a niche audience of people that don't want to be a business intelligence expert,
Right.
need to be,
Yeah.
maybe don't have the budget to be as well.
Right. Yeah.
And
Just need a pie chart, a bar chart.
exactly. And for that, Microsoft do a sort of catering job as well on this. They provide a chart web part,
Mhm.
which unfortunately though isn't actually dynamic. You feed it static information. So
Mm,
if you
mm.
want to actually display a
I
chart
think
on
it's a little bit dynamic now, but still not anything like
just a
data
little
viewer.
tiny bit,
Yeah.
yeah. So what we've got here is kind of the best of both worlds, where you can add a web part on the page inside of modern SharePoint or inside of Teams, and you can connect it to SQL Azure, you can connect it to OData or an Excel workbook. In fact, if you used Excel services, that's gone,
Mhm.
and that was
Right.
a really good use case. So yeah, you can effectively do with the data viewer what you were doing with Excel
Mm,
services back in the day. And yeah, it's just a great experience to be able to provide a grid of data or provide a chart and so
mhm,
on.
mhm,
And with the chart aspect, we also connect it to the Lightning Conductor.
mhm,
So if you were wanting to aggregate SharePoint lists, which could be custom lists or task lists or something like that, and then be able to report on that information, the data viewer allows you to do that as well by
mhm,
connecting the SPFX web parts.
mm.
So,
Nice.
yeah, it's a great little product.
Yep.
So should we dive in
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Can we take a look?
all right, so hopefully you should be seeing my screen here.
Yes.
Wonderful. So yeah, I've got a few configured already, just to give you an idea. This is a few web parts configured inside of SharePoint, and I'm in
Mm,
the edit mode at the moment. But this
mhm,
is a pie chart. We've got also a grid view of data coming in from an external data source, and we've also got this chart here, which is a column chart, and also a line chart in one. So it's showing
mm,
the sale amount per quarter, as well as the shipping costs that
mm,
have been paid out as well. And if I jump into Teams, we actually use this as an add-on product to Social Squared as well. So
mhm,
this is our discussion forums
mm,
product, and you'll notice right next to it is the
mm,
another tab which is actually reporting on some of that. So
mm,
you can either add the data viewer as its own app, or you can also go through and add it here inside as a page
mhm,
inside of Teams as well. So this again just gives you a few other examples of how you might use the product. You'll see that we've got gauges, we've got tree maps, mixed charts. This is showing an area, a line, and a column
mm,
in that particular example. And then here's the gauges and the tree
mhm,
map and things like that. So
mm,
like I say, very flexible product. So
mm.
how
And
you
and
can
it's nice to be able to create a whole dashboard like that.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're not aware, one of the things you can do is go through and edit the section on a modern page, and you can choose how many columns you want.
Mm,
So you might decide to have like, a 1/3 left or 1/3 right as well, which might be better in this scenario because this one looks a little bit squished. But
mm, mhm,
yeah, that's the sort of thing that you can do
mhm,
there. And once you add the web part, which is nice and easy to do, you just go through and say, I want to add the data viewer, and then you can configure that. This is how you can configure it. So these are the different data sources.
mm,
Of course, if we selected something like business connectivity services, we're going to give it the external content type. If we were looking at SQL, then we're going to provide it with the credentials and the
mm,
connection information to SQL.
mhm,
We've also got Excel, and then you get to drill into your different sites in order to find a document library that contains an Excel
mm,
workbook.
mm,
And you've also got SharePoint lists as well and things like that you can connect to. And additionally, there's also the current page data source, which means another web part
mm,
in the page.
uh-huh,
So I'm going to go ahead and connect to an OData service, and you'll notice that we can either create a chart view or a grid view. So if I do a
mm,
chart, I'll do a grid view first, and I'm just going to drop in this OData service URL and load some entities here. And I'm going to connect down to this query here called invoices.
okay.
And in here we've got a few different things. You can see we've got different shipping addresses where all these orders went to, as well as the customer or the product name and that type of thing that was ordered, as well as things like the any discount, quantity, unit price, etc., order date, and so on. So we can choose all of these. I'm going to select the customer name as well, and we could also drop in the freight cost in there, and we can then go through and style all of this as currencies and so on, which is actually one of the challenges with BDC. The standard BDC web parts that you had, you couldn't, even for a small fix like data formatting, you had to go and do that in XSL as well.
Right.
So yeah, this is how we can get a grid of data. So you can see here we've got lots of orders for Alfred's Futskist. We can see the shipper name, the product name, the unit price, and of course, if we scroll off to the right, we're going to see the other columns as well. I didn't allow pagination and so on, so I'm just going to come across here and scroll back up, and yeah, you'll see the quantity, discount, and freight costs. So we can drop that into a grid. We could then go through and style this using conditional formatting and that type of thing, just like we've got on the left. But what I'm going to do is actually modify that to a chart instead. So we'll build a chart. So same data source, and the columns, I'm going to stick with the unit price, the quantity, and the discount. I'll get rid of freight. And we're also going to drop in here the ship country as well. Now, the problem with this is unit price, quantity, and discount doesn't actually give me the value of each order, which is what I want. So with the data view, you can actually easily go through and create calculated columns. So if I call this order value, and we'll specify the data type, which is in this case a double, and I'm going to drop in some of those other columns. So you notice here I can build my calculation easily with this. I'm not getting as advanced as I would do inside of Power BI, where I'm getting into model diagrams and that type of thing. But
transforming and things, but
exactly. But what I'm going to do here is take the quantity and simply just multiply that by the unit price and deduct the discount and drop that in, and we've now got ourselves an order value column.
Cool.
So I can choose that as well. So we've got the ship country, we've got all of these, as well as the order value, and I could drop in the freight. And in fact, I don't really need to see these in my chart. I'll just go with the freight cost, the ship country, and the order value. So so now we've got a chart that looks extremely busy because it's showing this per line, per order line. But I've got the ability to easily group by. So all I need to do here is just hit the group by on the ship country.
Well, that was easy.
Yep. And now we've got the order value and the freight displaying, and that order value being my custom column. And the colors that the data viewer picks out are just random. So what I could do is just change this to a column, but at the same time change my color. And what I like to do is select the theme color. So that way, if anybody ever comes along and changes the theme for this site, it's going to blend in with the site nicely as well. So we get that same blue that's on the theme that you can see in the background here. And then we want a super bright color, such as a yellow or a green or something like that, to really make that line stand out. And we can have different types of pointers. So if I give, say, a diamond and increase that point size as well, we get a little diamond icon next to each part as well. And that just gives me something to hover over and see the value. So that's how we can build a chart very easily. And if we go into the chart settings, I could have this as invoice value and freight per country. And we can choose where our legend is going to be and background colors and things like that. And if I'm happy, I just save that onto the page there, and there's my chart. So really straightforward. Yeah. And you can hide this command bar as well, or all the different options on it. So when you're building a dashboard, you might not need to see all of that. So it just makes it look a little bit prettier as well on the page.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's the type of thing that we can do there. And as you mentioned earlier on, you can also connect the data viewer across to the Lightning Conductor. So we've talked about the Lightning Conductor a lot. This is our content aggregation tool, and we've got a release of this week. There's actually a webinar taking place on Thursday on the Lightning Conductor. And what I can do with this is aggregate different lists and libraries, but also Microsoft Graph entities like to-do lists and planner plans and things like that. Or we can also get to search results and so on as well. So what I'm going to connect this to is some tasks coming in from multiple sites. I'm going to choose the current hub site and any associated sites.
Okay.
And you'll notice here that we get some tasks coming in. These are coming from 2 different sites in this particular scenario. And then I can add the data viewer next to that. And what I'm going to do is just connect the data viewer, not by pointing it directly at a data source, but choosing the current page data source. And now we're going to be using the SPFX connections in order to be able to join these two together. So I choose chart view, and the data source here is the Lightning Conductor.
Okay.
And when we're connecting the Lightning Conductor, we can either connect based on selected items. So if you want that sort of one-to-many type relationship, or all the retrieved items. In this case, I want all of the retrieved items to build my chart. So it's on the selected item there.
So there's an option in the Lightning Conductor where you can, it's right now not enabled, but there is one to enable to give you the little selection dots next to each item if you want to do that.
Exactly, yeah. So you can select one or more items that way. Yep, 100%. So yeah, also in here we can now choose our columns. So notice these are the columns coming from the Lightning Conductor, the ones I selected. So I'm going to choose the ID, and I'm going to choose the priority as 2 different columns there. And then when I build my chart, I can group by the priority. I can count the IDs, and I can switch to a pie. And now we've got a nice little pie chart showing us how many high, normal, or low priority tasks we have.
Cool.
And yeah, we can go
and
through.
That's for all the task lists in your hub. So that's pretty cool.
Yep, exactly. And again, you can style this however you want. And yeah, we've now got that displayed. And the Lightning Conductor is powering that, obviously. We may not need to see the Lightning Conductor, so I could actually hide that. And we still get our pie chart displaying on the page here.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's a fantastic little product.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great demo. And yeah, I think I especially think it's really cool to connect them together. And then you can also, we don't necessarily have time today, but you can also connect that to Lightning filters, as you mentioned, and create a whole dashboard where people are selecting something in a Lightning filter, and it filters, several charts and Lightning conductors, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll be, like I said, we've got the webinar this week on the Lightning Conductor, but next month we've also got a webinar on the data viewer as well.
Yep.
So yeah, if you want to get self-registered for that, we'll go through the whole thing, and we'll show off some of that functionality too. So
Yep, great. Sounds good.
yeah, wonderful. All right. Well, I think we've got another show next week, and then the one after that we're going to be in Germany. So it'd be great to get some. If you happen to be going to the European Collaboration Summit and you want to come and visit us at the booth, the
Please
Lightning
do.
Tools booth, yeah, it'd be great to get you on the show and see what
Yeah,
you think
that
of some of
too.
these products.
Yep.
All right, wonderful. Well, thanks a lot, Sandy.
Yeah,
I'll
thank you.
see you soon.
All right. Bye.